Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another episode here at the Debate Circle. We are in the Nyanza region and we cannot wait to crown the winners for this particular region. The motion of dissection today reads, universal basic income is a necessity for a financially inclusive society. I'll read the motion of dissection again. Universal basic income is a necessity for a financially inclusive society. Proposing and opposing this motion, we have Nyamira Boys High School versus Lwak Girls. All the best to both teams. Team proposition, first speaker, you have 3 minutes.
A good plan now is better than a best plan tomorrow. This has been simple folk wisdom all along, considering Rani Marison's words that state, our lives are driven by the choices that we make. Marceline Felicitas from the great St. Mary's Lwak Girls, ready to propose the motion that states, universal basic income is a necessity for a financially inclusive society. Universal basic income. What exactly is this universal basic income that everyone has been talking about? Some of you out there just talk about it but don't know what it means. I'm going to explain to you. Universal. Universal simply means involving all people in the world. Basic income is the money that a person, a region, or a country earns from their work. Finance, activity of managing money, especially by a government. Inclusive, it simply means including everyone. UBI is a source of social security. A world where everyone is receiving the same amount of money, no one will be contemplating about going to the other person to steal. Instead, these people will be working on how they should invest this money so that they can increase their resources. If you look at the crime rates that are in Africa, particularly in Kenya, we see that 60% of the people who are in the slums, who are unemployed, have no money to invest, they are not being paid anything, are the ones who are causing most of the crimes in the society. UBI reduces gender gap pay. You find that a mama mboga selling vegetables in a grocery store is being paid less money. I mean, the profit that she gets is less compared to that person who's working in a bank. The person in the bank has probably taken her mother or her grandmother to their retirement home. The retirement home, the people who are taking care of these people at the retirement homes are mainly nurses who are ladies. So you can't tell me that someone who's taking care of these grandparents should be receiving less money compared to the person who's sitting in at an office, because they are doing fairly the same amount of work that will benefit the society. With that, I rest my case.
We Africans live in a paradox of poverty amidst plenty. I am Dylan Mutanya from the great Nyamira Boys High School, and I'm here to strongly oppose the point that says universal basic income is a necessity for a financially inclusive society. Assuming that we're in a plane and these are the pilots, the plane would have definitely crashed. But why? Because of their wrong decisions, which made them choose the wrong definitions. Allow me be your pilot. Universal basic income is a social welfare proposal in which all citizens of a given population regularly receive a minimum amount in the form of an unconditional transfer. This is without means or need to work. And what is financial inclusion? It means that individuals and businesses have access to useful and affordable products, services that meet their needs. On to my first point. Universal basic income may disincentivize work. According to the Heritage Foundation, founded by Vijay Menon, it states that the number of people going to work a week reduced by 43% when UBI was introduced in their country. So UBI may at times disincentivize work and discourage entrepreneurship. UBI may also cause inflationary of pressure. Injecting a universal income into the economy may lead to inflation, reducing the purchasing power of the income. As it may reduce the purchasing power of the income, it may cause poverty. When UBI was launched in India, that is according to the Basic Income Network A report released on 19th December 2023, it was launched to reduce the poverty cases. But on being launched in India, we can still see that India is still languishing in poverty. With that, I rest my case.
As it was once said by Jeremy Ritland, basic income is not a utopia. It is a practical business planned for the next step of human journey. My opponent has just said, allow me to rebuttal first before I begin. You've talked of reduced incentive to work. Indeed, you've given out evidence. But according to the supporters' view, it has been searched, and a report by the Harvard researchers based on the randomizing evaluation of 7 government cash transfer programs found that, I repeat, found that no systematic evidence of an impact of work behavior was found. Honorable judges, esteemed opponents, and members, audience, today we stand at a crossroad where the concept of universal basic income is gaining an attraction as a panacea for our economic and social woes and blessings. That is why I, Ida Blessing, from the great saints of St. Mary's Lwak Girls, hereby stand ready to propose this motion. You also spoke of poverty reduction, and to my first point, UBI reduces poverty and inequality. UBI provides regular and unconditional payments for all individuals or households within a certain jurisdiction. There has been marked progress in reducing poverty over the past decades. In 2015, 10% of the world's population 10% of the world's population invested at a below $1.90 a day, down from 16%. In 2010, it was at 36%, at 16% in 2010, and in 1990, it was at 36%. While in 2020, almost 700 million people around the world are subsisting on less than $2.1. This leads me to my second point. Encourages entrepreneurship and creativity. UBI would allow individuals to make a risk and pursue position, projects, or new business ventures without the fear of financial ruin potential, resulting in great innovations, job creations, and economic growth. Here we talk of creativity, but perhaps, maybe your research, you never used your creativity. About 60% of the CEOs, that's the chief executive officers, cited creativity as the most important leadership quality, compared with 52% for integrating and 35% for global thinking. That is why I have to tell you, be true to your own goals. Don't compact us with rumors. I rest my case.
The sun shines, the rays are reflected. I am deeply honored to be the sun to reflect these rays of insight to you all. My name is Brandon Obala from the great Nyamira Boys High School, here to strongly oppose the motion that states that universal basic income is a necessity for a financially inclusive society. On to my first point. Alternative approaches. Targeted welfare programs and investments in education, healthcare, and infrastructure may be more effective in achieving financially inclusive society. Let's take, for example, a country known as Japan. Sankai Shimban, a journalist from Sora News 24, a platform in Japan, in the 17th of January 2021, reported a case about AI replacing people in the working sector. Although universal basic income assist these people who are replaced by the artificial intelligence, the money isn't enough to support their upkeep and also to strive for their social endeavors. Here is where industrialization comes in. Industrialization mainly aims to create employment opportunities for people in a particular state. I'd also like to object on the first speaker of the proposing side. You said that Mama Mboga earns less income than someone working in an office. You can't expect someone doing a low-paying job to get the same amount of money someone is doing in an office. The same way you can't expect a boda driver to get the same amount of money the president earns. This isn't logically possible. I also like to put across a point about the UBI causing demonstrations. In the year 2017, in the month of September, in a country known as Iraq, there was a demonstration about the UBI increasing the taxation rates. The taxation rates were increased in order for the funding of the UBI. This increased the amount of commodities in which the amount of common commodities in the country. As a summary, I'd like to say that UBI isn't the only system which can bring forth a financial inclusive society. I rest my case.
The world. As the world carries on, there are moments of truth and moments of lies. That's why I, Joy Kwamboka, from the Great St. Mary's Lwak Girls, stand firm to propose this motion that says universal basic income is a necessity for a financially inclusive society. And I believe it's a moment of truth and not of lies. You talk about the Mama Mboga and the difference between the income she'll get and the income that a doctor in a hospital can get. I want to tell you that there's a big difference between the poor and the rich. And the money that they get is very different, and it has a range between them. And as for my first point, I go to job flexibility. By the help of UBI, individuals can explore careers and pursue education to help them to care for their families without fear of losing the essential support. Let's give an example of Finland. In Finland, a 2-year trial in 2017 to 2018 provided an employment to 2,000 unemployed citizens, and they all managed to get a place to work. So let's put this to Kenya with the current states of the Gen Zs. If, let's say, they have a place to work, wouldn't they stop demonstrating in the streets? Wouldn't our country have peace? Even if not all of them are employed, wouldn't at least the others see that at least our efforts have not gone down the drain? At least we've enabled some of our youths to get employed. And to my second point, it acts as an economic booster. By putting money directly into people's pockets and people's hands, universal basic income boosts consumer spending and supporting local businesses and economic growth. We look at over 98% of Africans' companies are foreign supported. Let's take an example of the Indians. They came from their countries to Africa and managed to set up most of the companies that provide our goods. And where the local companies, they get a competition of marketing their products from those Indian companies. They have competition that they can't even reach the level of those companies. That's why I say that universal basic income is a necessity for a financially inclusive society. And I quote Andrew Young's word that says, universal basic income is not the solution to our problems, but the solution in front of us. So let's think about it. And I think it's time for us not to be pessimists, but to be optimists. Thank you. I rest my case.
Once a wise man in a generation said, look before you leap. First, let's go to the second speaker. She said that the reduction of poverty. In this world, we have many people who are in drug addictives, some people who don't know how to use their money. Now, if you take the money and give to a family, and you see, and that family which you have given the money to is so addictive to drugs, will you use that money to reduce the povertiness or to buy the drugs? And also, onto my point, financial instability. Most of the countries are hampered with the burden of poverty. For example, our country, Kenya, have a huge debts. The introduction of universal basic income will lead to even the more debts destroying the economy of the country, which also leads to slug development, because all we know, you can't bite more than you chew. Example, in a country like India is a very, very poor country and have a high population of people. So, when the universal basic income is introduced to such a country, it may lead to massive destruction of the financial and economic status and even lower their currency. If the government decides, if the government, like now in Kenya, if the government decides to use the money in developing the country, will that be a better state compared to when given this money to the people? So I would like to tell you the advantages. It reduces laziness because it reduces laziness. The second advantage, it creates employment. And I rest my case there.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, our esteemed judges, throughout the debate, we have highlighted the transformative potentials of universal basic income. We urge you to support universal basic income as a bold step for a fairer and more resilient world. As a wise man once said, we should explore ideas like UBI to make sure that everyone has a passion to try new ideas. That is why I have to tell you this. I'm sorry to say it, but when you can't challenge, when you can't respond good to whatever is happening, challenge yourself to respond to the way you respond to whatever happening, and that is where your power lies. Thank you.
Thank you once again for the opportunity to express my points. It is quite funny to think to only have one way of administrating a system to eradicate poverty. Remember what Dr. Sarah from the great Sagittarius Pharmaceuticals said. It's not always the first shot that kills a man, and it's not always the first shot that gets the girl. We can't only rely on one system to eradicate poverty. That's why I like to list a number of systems which can eradicate poverty and also bring employment. Let's take, for example, industrialization, welfare programs and investments. These programs aim to create employment. And I don't get why you only have like one system to eradicate poverty. And what if the UBI fails? What other system will you have to annihilate poverty among the civilians? It is very funny to think of it. I'd like to raise my case at that.
I want to appreciate both teams on stage. It takes courage to sit before us and speak before us. Now, as the judges, we have a feeling that you haven't done justice to this motion. The motion is about universal basic income being a necessity for a financially inclusive society. As the proposers of this motion, we expected you to argue out and prove to us that it is universal basic income that will actually help us stabilize the society and have a financially inclusive society. You really tried. It was a good attempt, but that did not come to what we had really expected. As the opposers of this motion, a very simple question. If it is not universal basic income, then what is it that will help us achieve a financially inclusive society? Again, that is something that you did not bring out very well, and you did not tell us exactly what will help the society be financially inclusive. So let's go to the individuals. Marceline Felicitas, the first proposer, a very good start, very good stage presence. You defined the terms in the motion. That was very good. However, it is not necessary that you define every singular term in the motion. I expected you to define these two terms. What is universal basic income? And then what do we mean by a financially inclusive society? We are not looking for definition of terms, but we want you to define the motion and help us understand what the motion is expected of you. You did set a good tempo for your team, and that was good. You had very good points on social security and reducing gender gap pay. That was very good. Otherwise, good effort from both teams. I wish you all the best.